Right, so this kind of sums up what a year has been for professional wrestling, because I sat down to try and figure out who my 10 best wrestlers of 2023 were, and it was next to impossible. So even though I'm going to do a quick run through of some honorable mentions, I'm absolutely going to have forgotten someone. And if somehow that person watches this, or I remember afterwards, know that I will have a meltdown, and I will lose sleep, and I'm very sorry, and yes, I'm a bald ass. Now, of course, too, make sure you drop me your opinions and thoughts in the comments as well, because I'd love to know what anybody thinks about all of this, because again, it really is all over the place. And listen to the people that I've left out. Some of these are offended, and you should be insulted that I didn't do them. But Will Ospreay probably had the best in-ring year of anyone ever, not in my top 10, which is nuts, but I will put a spin on it and say these are very personal to me, and we'll explain that as we go. Swerve Strickland, again, I always knew he was going to be a star. It may sound a little bit like an idiot, but he did a match in progress, I assume in 2023, maybe it was 2022, against Cara Noir, and watching how he adapted to how I'd seen him work in WWE NXT at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy totally gets it. He is not on. Orange Cassidy, once again, took an international championship and made it into the thing. And when you're talking about serious wrestling and goofy wrestling and pushing things together, he'd be number one. And I love him to pieces. I'm glad he's in AEW. Tony Storm, Tyler's Tony Storm, one of the best character changes in history. Didn't get in my top 10. John Moxley, because he knows exactly who he is and he always smashes it. Claudio Castagnoli, once again, the most consistent wrestler maybe ever. Never has a bad match. LA Knight, now, he was in there, but I moved him out for somebody else. You can argue that one. But yeah, LA Knight had an absolute standout 12 months. He's now officially a main eventer in WWE. That's super cool. Athena took Ring of Honor and made it her own to the point she main evented the damn pay-per-view in December. And the man, we're going to do a video on this, who got inducted into the Simon Miller Wrestling Hall of Fame, which means nothing, Kevin Owens. I'm always going to shout at Kevin Owens. In terms of a performer, I love watching, no matter what he's involved in, flipping KO. Right, okay, so we get into the top 10, and we start with number 10. Obviously, this is the one that's going to get everyone talking, but I stand by it, and it means I get to have my big chat. Number 10 is Bayley. Now, originally, LA Knight was here, right? I had LA Knight / Bayley, but later on, I've already cheated, and I've got a double. I thought I don't want to do it twice, because that makes me an absolute goober. When it comes to Bayley, she is one of the most underrated wrestlers I think that has ever existed. Now, somebody on the internet, again, I've got to start noting these things down, I'm so sorry, posted her win-loss record for 2023, and it's terrible. It's like 3 wins and 742 losses, but even then, Damage Control were not the stable that I believe we hoped them to be. Actually, the additions recently of Kairi Sane and everybody else has made it far better. But I kind of think when it was just Io Sky, Bayley, and Dakota Kai, we could have done more with them, or we didn't really strike when the iron was hot. And they almost became second fiddle in feuds. They were almost there as the foundations, where sometimes they should have been the house itself. But whatever, we didn't do it. But Bayley never ever gets her just desserts. Constantly good in the ring. She constantly understands her character. She can be funny. She can be serious. You know, the last couple of months, she's been sympathetic. She's been incredibly sympathetic because, of course, in 2024, she's finally going to go back to being a babyface. And I think this sums up when she first got called up from NXT as well, because everyone was like, oh my gosh, it's a home run. She can do the hugger gimmick. She's essentially the female John Cena. And then for some reason, Vince McMahon decided, oh no, she should be treated like a child as opposed to being someone that should have appealed to a younger demographic. So I remember when she first turned heel, everyone was like, oh, it's not going to work. Bayley can't play heel. And arguably the character she has been doing for the last few years is even better. So knowing what she is like, I'm guessing obviously, if she takes elements of the original one and elements of the one she's just done and puts them together, 2024 could even be a better year for Bayley. So she was in my honorable mentions. I was like, no, I'm not pushing her away anymore, damn it. People keep pushing her away. She is so reliable. She is so dependable. She's always having good matches. She makes you laugh. Ding dong, hello. I know it's ages ago. I don't care. Put a smile on my face. This is just me giving her her due. And she's actually had much better years than 2023, but I don't care. Sometimes you got to do it, and I did it. Which in many ways actually is the same for number 9. You could put him anywhere on this list because people just, I don't know. I think maybe he's an easy target. Maybe he's just been not around too long. That's just unfair. But maybe he's just too loyal to WWE and doesn't really sort of shake the cages, which, you know, we like in professional wrestling. Look at CM Punk. That was my other honorable mention, CM Punk. I couldn't get him in my top 10, but that's a different video for a different day. But it does tie in, so I've just thought about it. Number 9, Seth Rollins. Because Seth Rollins is just such a good professional wrestler, and I think we take him for granted because he always delivers to such a high level. You get used to that, and you just kind of shrug your shoulder. He has a main event match against anybody. You know the fights he's had this year. And yeah, it's always like, we'll go with silly star ratings, a 4-star match. People go, yeah, well, of course it was a 4-star match. Like, this dude is busting out 4-star matches all of the time, and that's the reason he became the world heavyweight champion, again, because he's reliable, and WWE knew he could go out there and bust his ass and make that championship mean something. And sure, at the moment, does it mean as much as Roman Reigns is? No. We understand the reason for that, and I would actually start passing that title around more. I think, if you're going to have somebody hold the belt for 10,742 days, and you make another championship, have some fun with it. But Seth Rollins, to me, I think what really put him over the edge is is when clearly he gone backstage, had a chat with Triple H and CM Punk, and he just says, listen, Phil, I presume that's what he calls him, I don't particularly like you. I stand by everything I've said in interviews, but I'll work with you. I'll do business with you. Again, because I am a company guy, he cares about his legacy. And if it does lead to him having a main event at WrestleMania, which is what he's always wanted, it's absolutely deserved, because apart from that time when he had that awful ACL injury, which was 2015, 16, 17, he has been, just Mr. Consistent. I keep saying that word. But this year, seeing how much he put other people first, I should say, like the Cody Rhodes stuff, I understand that's I've kind of gone too far back there, but he does it constantly. And there's every chance when CM Punk and Seth Rollins do clash, Seth will lose the first match, politics aside. But again, we've talked about that. We won't talk about it here. So I kind of put Seth and Bayley in the same bracket. They make WWE better, and they do so every single year. And given that I've never really done a video like this on my channel, I was like, you know what? Let's give them their flowers. So here's a damn rose. In number 8 is very 2023. Arguably now the greatest Intercontinental Champion ever is flipping Gunther. He's just good, isn't he? I don't really know what to say about this. He's just a superb heel, and he's a great worker. And I guess he stands out a mile, not just because of the way that he looks. He is an intimidating champ, but he doesn't work in the traditional sense of what we believe modern wrestling to be. There's no flippy dippy doodah stuff. He doesn't actually do a lot of moves. What he will do is he'll chop you down, and he'll be incredibly intense, and he'll be incredibly violent, and he'll be incredibly crazy, like, oh, look into my eyes, to the point that you only have to see about 1.4 Gunther matches. Like, say you've never ever heard of him before. You watch 1.5 Gunther matches, man, I totally believe this guy. He's got that legitimacy about him, which is why moving into 2024, I really hope we do the Brock Lesnar Gunther feud so we don't miss out on it. When Brock Lesnar is done, Gunther can be moved into that end of level boss territory, and even though he'll probably lose the Intercontinental Championship, I would guess in the next few months, maybe before WrestleMania or just after, he's one of these guys that can lose that, come back out on Raw and say, oh yeah, I'm going for a world title now, and everyone will just go, yes, you are. And this kind of ties into the win-loss argument too, because he has a loss, so you're like, well, how can you make that step up? Look at all the wins he's had, and they've been amazing wins. The Drew McIntyre-Sheamus match at WrestleMania, the complete opposite when he took on Chad Gable, and all the other defenses he's done. Even the Miz stuff was good. And I hate saying that because that makes me sound like I'm being disparaging to the Miz. The Miz is flipping awesome, obviously. He tells us in his entrance theme, but not in my wildest dreams did I ever think we'd get to this point and be able to have a conversation about a brand new potential greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. Because WWE didn't care about their mid-card titles, but he's come along, he's established himself. I'm really happy he did decide to move to America because I think he's perfect for WWE on the grand stage. And he's only going to get better too. He will be the world champion before the end of next year, and he may be in these lists again, and maybe even higher up. It has been faultless, to be completely honest with you. What would you have changed with Gunther? One person said, oh, we should still call him Walter. We all got over that. And you want to know why? Because he's amazing. We move on. In at number 7, again, somebody that I think should have been shouted about more this year is damn Becky Lynch. Don't know why I keep saying damn before wrestlers' names are just so amped up right now. But Becky Lynch had a completely selfless year. Like, I really enjoyed the Trish Stratus feud. It did go on a little bit too long, and we should have peaked it at SummerSlam, but we did it at Payback, whatever it's called. That cage match was awesome. And then Becky decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to walk around. I'm going to try and elevate everybody. She tried with Xia Li, but for some reason, WWE just won't put her on television. But they still had a good match. She went down to NXT and did all that stuff with Lyra Valkyria. She worked with Tegan Nox. The list just goes on and on and on. And to have somebody of that star power being, again, so giving doesn't really tie into the traditional narrative when it comes to pro wrestling. A lot of people are protected of their spots. I mean, she can get away with anything. She had that guest appearance on Jeopardy, and I know it's harder for us UKians to watch that. She was terrible, right? But because she has so much personality, I suppose, you don't care. It actually made it better that she sucked at Jeopardy, and I think that's what she brings to the ring all the time as well. And she must have had a decent 12 months or so, because leading into WrestleMania 40, everybody presumes we're going to do Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch, and that is going to feel like a massive match. It probably was going to main event night 1 at one point, but now CM Punk has returned, blah, blah. Things have changed, cards subject to change. That is the traditional wrestling thing. I just think Becky Lynch is one of the greatest. I hate putting these labels on it, but, we will put things in boxes because it's easier to try and sell it to you. She's one of the best WWE female wrestlers ever. Like, she really, really is. Completely changed things, when she became the man. And while maybe the heel turn was ill-advised, she's back being a babyface now. She feels like a megastar, and I always look forward to seeing her. And so I was like, you know what? She has entertained me this year, so she deserves to be on a list like this. And she rarely drops the ball in the ring either. And she can just do anything that WWE asks her to do. That's why she gets in. So number 6 is the first time that I do cheat, but I kind of see them on the same level in many ways. So I thought, you know what? It's my list to do whatever I want. So on one side, you got Sami Zayn. On the other, you got Eddie Kingston. Now, Eddie Kingston kind of vanished for a little bit in the middle there through no fault of his own. That's just the way that AEW books stuff. But nobody cuts a better promo. Nobody feels more real. And nobody makes you care as much as Eddie Kingston, apart from maybe Sami Zayn, right? That's why I've squished them together. Now, Sami Zayn obviously gets the shout out because of everything that happened leading up to the Elimination Chamber. I understand that we're talking about 2 months worth of TV here, and if we go back a little further, we're getting into 2022 stuff. But anything he has done, I just think has been wonderful. And I think he's proved a lot of people wrong. The Royal Rumble turn against Roman Reigns, absolutely fantastic. Again, the elimination match with Roman Reigns was so good and was so anticipated. People genuinely thought that maybe, just maybe, WWE would end Roman Reigns' 7,000-day title reign on what we call a B pay-per-view or B premium live event. That doesn't just happen. I understand it was in Sami Zayn's hometown, but again, you need to have something special about you. Then he did all the stuff with Kevin Owens, and they won the tag team titles at WrestleMania. The little mini feud he had with Drew McIntyre that I do expect to go into 2024. He has been the linchpin as well, holding stories together. Because if Cody Rhodes doesn't go out there and get Jey Uso onto Raw, and rephrase that, without Sami Zayn, you can't tell the story as well. Because Sami Zayn was the guy standing up for him, where everyone else was like, oh, I don't trust you. And yeah, it's the same for both him and Eddie Kingston. They have something that you can't teach. It doesn't grow on trees. It just has to be within you. And they just both have it. And every time I watch them, it's more for Eddie Kingston, admittedly, but you could argue, or Simon, you do know they don't understand that wrestling is predetermined. They don't know about sports entertainment. And I totally believe it. I just look forward to seeing them, and I want them to win. And I think that is the special sauce when it comes to a good babyface. No matter who they're facing or what kind of predicament they find themselves in, you should have this urge for them to be victorious. And it's certainly been true with Eddie Kingston, the Continental Classic, which has just been so damn wonderful. It's different with Sami Zayn because I never actually thought he was going to beat Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber. But was I willing him on? Yes, I was. So when they did get their mini moment, him and Kevin Owens at WrestleMania Night 1, I thought it was fantastic. And actually, going back to my honorable mentions, I told you this was going to be a mess. Jey Uso has to get a shout in there too. It's the best thing about the Bloodline is that it has built new stars. And without that, I don't think that would have ever happened. That's why I think it's all been wonderful. Which moves us on to number 5. Let's cause some controversy. Goodbye comments. Roman Reigns. Now I get it. He's had like 3 matches all year, but I don't just watch wrestling for matches. It's a huge reason of why I do tune in, but I want promos and I want aura and I want star power. And at the moment, Roman Reigns is at the tippity top of the #1 wrestling company in the world. And when you do get Hana Sana and his music starts, it just feels like he is a big deal. Also, he had that match with Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 39. Again, we can debate the ending until the end of time, but I thought that was fantastic. I loved the Money in the Bank match that I was there live for, the tag team match. The Jey Uso match was a little bit disappointing, but it still wasn't bad. And he's just a dude. He's just the man. And I just look forward to seeing him. That's the thing. It doesn't matter if you give him, 25 minutes to do one of his stretched out fights, or if you give him a microphone to talk to 10 minutes. I love the way he makes me feel, which is a ridiculous thing to say, but that is a huge part of pro wrestling for me. It's the emotion that people make me feel deep down in my tum-tum. And Roman has been given the opportunity to be the top guy, but ever since he's rewritten this character, he has justified it too. So many people have been given the ball, but they haven't been able to run with it. It's kind of why I put him at number 5, I think. He's another guy, you could put anyone. You can put him at 1, you can put him at 10, you can put him at 6, and I would understand it, but I think he has to be in a list because, this isn't a list about people that move numbers or business metrics, but he's massively responsible for the boom, or he's partly responsible for the boom that WWE is going through, and it's because he comes across like a superstar, and I love having an over-top superstar in every single era, and he's ours. And like I say, going into the Sami Zayn match, so pumped. Going into the Kevin Owens match, so pumped. Going into the Cody Rhodes match, so pumped. Going into the Usos tag match, so pumped. Do you know what I mean? He puts these things on a pedestal, and he allows you to see it as, this is going to be the best thing ever. So I think he's wonderful. I think he does lose at WrestleMania 40, and then I think most of 2024 will be him as a babyface, which is going to be massively interesting. But I'm pumped about it too, because he hasn't dropped the ball so far. I don't think he will. And number 4 is when I cheat again, but these 2 people have to be in there, and I just refuse to leave either one of them off. So I was like, if Dave Meltzer can break his 5-star system, I can break the 10 system when it comes to a list. So on the left-hand side, you've got Rhea Ripley. On the right-hand side, you've got arguably the greatest wrestler of our generation. Once again, that's a huge debate. He's certainly up there, in my opinion. It's flipping Kenny Omega. One of the reasons I split them as well is because I think Rhea Ripley would be the first person to admit maybe WWE didn't have the best challengers lined up for her. Like everything was Lena Vega or Zoe Stark or whoever has been perfectly fine. But we want to get into the Bianca Belairs, we want to get into the Becky Lynches, we want to get into the Baileys if we do turn Bailey babyface. But I think she said it in an interview recently, and forgive me if I'm wrong. She mentioned that a lot of what I've been able to do in 2023 has been with the men, right? And that has given me this aura, it has given me this star power, it has given me this over-the-top personality, I suppose. And I just think she rocks. And her and Dominic Mysterio have been a great pairing. Nobody would have ever put them together. They've used each other to elevate them. So while she hasn't really had any super, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with the Women's Championship matchup, I honestly don't think it matters because Rhea Ripley has held herself to such a high level that she still has to get in this list. When she comes out, I'm like, that person can whip your ass. That person can absolutely kill you. And she has done that. Again, she's been throwing everybody around. And when she has had had matches, she's completely squashed people. So in one sense, I'm like, you know what, that did kind of work, but it would have been great if and it's not her fault, this is what WWE decides to do. It would have been great if we could have snuck in a Bianca Belair or Charlotte Flair or something like that. But speaking of Charlotte Flair, you know, of course, the WrestleMania 39 match was so good. They went out there with a bee in their bonnet and they absolutely killed it. And I've just loved watching her come to fruition as somebody that is going to be, look, she's a star now, she's gonna get even bigger. She's gonna get to like John Cena levels, I think. I'm not even kidding. Well, let's go with Becky Lynch levels if you want to keep the two separate. She really does. She has everything in the world. People already cheer her. That's when you know when you're doing something right. And she basically took over Judgment Day. Now, there was a time when you wouldn't have been able to get away with that. And obviously, you know, in 2023, of course you should be able to do it. But nobody can debate it. And if you do, you're just being that guy. So that's why I had to get her in. And when it comes to Kenny Omega, I mean, shout out to Kenny Omega because when I'm recording this video, he's just been through diverticulitis surgery. So my word, I hope he's okay because nobody should have to go through that. But the fact he had that match with Ethan Page, which was brilliant, by the way, on Collision, when he was suffering, just sums it up. And be it the Ospreay match or the Vikingo stuff or what he did with Takeshita. Once again, I don't want to stand here and name a bunch of wrestlers, but I'll throw MJF in there as well. He is an incredible professional wrestler. And the levels he is able to get himself to, even when he's probably like 45%, is absolutely incredible. And there are a contingent of people on the internet, and you're allowed to have this opinion. You're allowed to have any opinion you want. They just don't get Kenny Omega. And that's cool, man. But from my vantage point, I think it's absolutely bonkers because I just think that he's a next level of performer. And you'd be able to put him with anyone. The other person would feel like they were better just because of what Kenny Omega was doing. And I'm a little bit worried this may be the last year he works as a full-time performer. Not that he shouldn't go away, should he feel like he needs to. His health and his happiness is way more important. But I kind of feel like when he does retire, we're going to look back and go, you know what? We didn't give him the credit that he was due. One of the best of all time. And one day I'll sit down and actually do my top 10 wrestlers ever. And he's definitely going to be in it. And if not, what is going on in my brain? So that's why I wanted to sneak them both in. We'll move on to the top 3. Don't worry, they're all just singular people. I haven't been that much of a dick. And in number 3, we just mentioned him, and again, there's a personal reason for this too, but also on a wider scale, absolutely smashed it. Definitely the best year of his career so far, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. I mean, first of all, he won the World Championship at the end of 2022, and he's held it for the entire year and broken records. And look at the matches he's had. Again, just mentioned the Bryan Danielson one. It was so damn good. The 4-way he had with Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, and Sammy Guevara. I was there live for that. Is it one of the best 4-ways I've ever seen live? Yes. Yes, it is. Mentioned the match with Omega 2 that just happened on a random Collision, and that rocked as well. There'll be other ones I'm not thinking about as well, but I really do think that he has cemented himself as a face of the company, as a top guy, as a leader again. The stuff with Adam Cole was really, really good. Main evented All In, another massive tick box. He continues to remind you that he is a really good in-ring performer. So many people forget that while he can spit fire on a microphone, when it comes to like an all-rounded individual, you're not going to find much better than MJF. And from a personal point of view, you know, it's just so cool to be inspired by somebody who is also of the Jewish faith. It just is. It's one of those things. When you see somebody that has a connection with you, be it personal or extended, and then you see them doing so well, you're like, yeah, let's do it. And that's not the be all and end all. Of course it's not, but it certainly means something to me, especially in professional wrestling, because there's Colt Cabana, there's Bill Goldberg, there's Barry Horowitz, and there'll be some other people too. But to get it in the year of 2023, I just think it's really, really cool. And I think it's really, really awesome. And when you win the World Championship for the first time, what usually happens is you have to sort of go through a cycle. And then when you come back to it the second time, then you actually feel like a champion. MJF has kind of gone the other way. He just elevates himself, and he elevates himself to the point, again, try and imagine AEW without him in 2023, and I don't know if it works. And I understand that some people don't like the Devil storyline. I'm a sucker. As long as the reveal is good, I'm a sucker for that kind of a stuff. And I've just enjoyed everything that he's done. And going back to the Danielson match, probably the best Iron Man match I've ever seen, which is saying something. So yeah, you have to get in my top 3. Just a ridiculously talented individual, and he's 27 years old. Unless he leaves for Hollywood or something, when he gets into his late 30s, he's just going to be burning the building down. I'm pretty pumped to see it. Which brings us to number 2 and number 1, and these two are interchangeable, and I went back and forth. But I thought, given where they are at their career, I'll do it this way. So in at number 2 is Cody Rhodes. Now, I get it. He didn't win at WrestleMania 39. Maybe he should have done. But the fact that he didn't, and he still went on to get even more over and even more popular with the WWE Universe, sums up that he has found his niche, he has found his place, and right now he is cooking more than he's ever cooked before. And I love that Brock Lesnar feud. There's this weird thing on the internet now that we didn't like that feud. I'm like, I like that feud. They were 3 hard-hitting, awesome matches, and you know that Brock liked them too, because at the end of the third one, even though he'd been defeated, Brock, without telling anyone, decided, I'm going to give Cody Rhodes a massive hug and established him as the guy. And that helps too. That gets in people's brains. Brock ain't going to do that unless Rhodes brings the fire, which he absolutely did. And I love the fact that he's a whiter than white babyface. I love the fact when he gets on the microphone, he cries and gets all emotional. I'm like, damn right, Cody, you do it. And, you know, when we go back to WrestleMania 38, it's one of the smartest moves that has ever happened. Now, I want to make it very clear, I want WWE and AEW to succeed. You want to argue in the comments, fine, but I really, really do want them both to do well. It was an ingenious move, and he has taken advantage of that to the point, I think the last 12 months have been the best year of his career. And think of the stuff that he has done. And I do think it's going to peak at WrestleMania 40 when he becomes the super duper mega champion, and then we can see what's next. I think he'll do absolutely fine. I think he'll continue to grow. But I know every time he comes out, I just want to hear what he's going to say. All the matches, be it with Brock or Shinsuke Nakamura or the tag team that he did with Jey Uso. I mean, do you remember that post press conference they did when maybe things had gone down and they were just the happiest people ever? It made me fall in love with both of them, which is a really freaky and weird thing to say. But yeah, when we get to December 2023 and I go through what wrestlers sort of really made me feel something throughout the year, and he is right up there. He really, really is. I love the fact that he's found his place in all this madness, and he's going to hit a new high eventually as well, because again, he is in his late 30s. He's got all the experience. He's about to be given the ball, and he's going to run with it. He's not going to be one of these people that drops it, and maybe we get into the CM Punk stuff. Who knows? Who knows what direction we go with? Maybe Seth Rollins gets back involved with him. I just know that I'm really excited about it, and he was number one at one point. Moving on to number one, I was like, okay, if this is the last year he ever works full time, which he has hinted at, and it sounds like it's going to go down, the year that Bryan Danielson has had has been absolutely ridiculous. I mean, as I'm sitting here right now, I watched Final Battle of the Ring of Honor pay-per-view a couple of days ago, and it was a 6-man tag that was dedicated to Jay Briscoe, which I thought was lovely. And who took the pin in it? Bryan Danielson. And this just sums up the man. He has no ego. Doesn't care if he wins, doesn't care if he loses. He just wants to enjoy professional wrestling. And while there are pros and cons to that, it just means every time he steps in that ring, you get magic. The Continental Classic, which has been one of my highlights of this entire year, would not be the same without Bryan Danielson. The fact then, you know, if you got to sort of Q4 and you said, Simon, what does Bryan Danielson need to do to put him over the edge, even though he was already there? But like, well, if you give him a Metal Gear Solid vibe, that would be pretty good. Then he hurts his eye and starts wearing an eye patch. And again, the stuff with MJF that he did the Iron Man match was so damn good. His match with Okada, which he finished with a broken arm, was so damn good. And then everything he's done in this C2. There is no way that Bryan Danielson can ever get in the ring and not give you something that goes, is that the best thing I've ever seen? Maybe it is. And there was a time, and maybe it was true, maybe it wasn't. I think we like to over-egg the pudding sometimes, where people said he couldn't cut a promo. That ain't true. In 2023. Go watch all the stuff that they do digitally. AEW Bryan Danielson, it just gets you so revved up, and he cares so much too. That's the other thing. Even the matches with Daniel Garcia, it's just brilliant. He's spitting on the guy like an absolute crazy person. The Brody King stuff, I don't want to start listing them off because that's way too much. But he is somebody, I mean, genuinely, when it comes to in-ring performances, if I went back to the start of 2023, I don't know what my opinion would be. But I know that my opinion now is that he's one of the greatest ever. When it comes to bell to bell, there's only a few people that can stand up to Bryan Danielson, and I say that with all the confidence in the world. You can get mad once again down there. He's able to adapt to anybody. He looks at wrestling in a completely different way, and he's so damn giving. That's the key. We've seen so many people that are amazing, but maybe they're a little bit selfish, which you do have to be in any kind of business, any kind of walk of life. But he doesn't do that, and he remains as over as he is because he's so damn genuine and because he's so talented. So he's absolutely my wrestler of the year. If he does retire all in 2024, I'll be devastated. Having Bryan Danielson around all the time is absolutely best for everybody. Although, like I said about Kenny Omega, he wants to go and spend time with his friends and his family and his kids, and he wants to let his body heal up. And that should always be the number one priority in wrestling, because it is a life after this grappling thing. I don't want him to be 67 years old, but oh man, I can't move anymore. But yeah, not just one of the best wrestlers, or the best wrestler for me of 2023, one of the best wrestlers of all time. Even if he spends his last 6 months going to the ring and playing chess with Tony Schiavone, it won't undo anything. That's the levels he has reached. And he's probably still going to be in contendership in 2024, even if he does retire in August, because think what he's going to give knowing that he's about to go away for a while. Actually, a little bit scary. Now, please, look, it's massively important you go into the comments below and let me know who your favorite wrestlers of the year are. Also, if there are things that you want to support me with, you can go to grillermind.com/Simon. You can get 10% off. I'm into my fitness, as you know. I'm wearing a fitness t-shirt for some reason. And you can get 10% off what I believe to be the best supplements ever. Patreon.com/Simon316 if you just want to give me money. Pro Wrestling Tees and Samson Athletics to get my merchandise. I'm on Cameo, search for my name. On TikTok at Simon J. Miller, Simon316 on Instagram and Twitter. And I believe that's everything. There's a video on the screen as well. Click that, subscribe. Notification crew, always appreciate you. That rhymes, so it must be true. I was a mega rhyme. But otherwise, yes, you won't agree with my list, but that's what makes the world go round. So join in. I'll see you soon.